Hey, Chicago Bears fans. For the first time since 2021, the Chicago Bears are on a 3-game win streak. Although there are many people who will talk about how the Monday night victory over the Washington Commanders was a game that they should have lost, we are going to dive deep and discuss this new era of Bears football where they find ways to win games rather than ways to lose. I'm Justin Oniemi, joined on this episode by Bob Weiss. This is the Hallis Huddle, where we're not going to rest till our good is better and our better is best.
Bears fans, this is a winning streak. Thank you for finding us here at the Hallis Huddle. If this is your first time, I want you to consider subscribing. And if you're returning, as always, make sure you comment right now and let us know what your main takeaways are from this monster Bears win on Monday Night Football. So, Justin, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I kind of already said it. People want to take away from a victory, and to me, you never apologize for winning. The Bears came out and started to show an identity, and a lot of it was getting the run game going, which coming into this game, it really wasn't clicking to the point where people are wondering, do they need to make a trade? I haven't heard much of that since. The big change was at left tackle to me, with Benedict replacing Braxton Jones. And honestly, DeAndre Swift is getting a lot of hype. He got the game ball, but I thought there was really good blocking up front from the line, from the receivers, from the tight ends. And you can tell it was a point of emphasis. Ben Johnson said he kind of took away some of the depth of plays and just said, let's be good at what we're going to run. And it showed up. With the defense, the identity remains take the ball away, make big plays when they're there. And to be honest, like I said, they have over the years found many, many ways to lose. And if you're a good team, you find ways to win. And that's what they're doing. So all phases were involved, just like we saw with Las Vegas. Both are road games, but the difference is you're going up against a team that represented themselves in the NFC Championship game last year. And let's not forget the ghosts of last year certainly were present in that stadium. And so to walk off with a win, I thought was fabulous. What about you, Bob? What were your takeaways?
Yeah, it was kind of the second week in a row where the Bears just found a way to win a game they usually lose. And kind of to what you said, good teams find ways to win. And that sentence kind of works in reverse as well. Whereas if you're consistently finding ways to win, that means you're a good team. And so that's kind of what the Bears are trying to find themselves at, even without operating at their fullest potential, where there still is a lot more potential to room and to grow and play even better than this. Ben Johnson said in his press conference today, like, wow, watch out, look how good we could be if we're able to straighten some of these things out. But if you are, even without that, putting together these winning habits week in and week out, now all of a sudden you're a competitive team in the NFL. And that's really what this game came down to. It was two just competitive teams right there in the muddled middle of, you're not exactly sure if these are 10-11 win teams, you're not sure if these are 7-8 win teams, but they're right there. And these are the type of football games that determine those final records. Who's going to make the playoffs, who's going to miss the playoffs. I know, Washington made the NFC Championship last year, but I think they overachieved, right? But they're still a good team. And this year, maybe they're the same team they underachieved, but it's games like this that determine your final record. And the Bears now twice in a row have gone out and found a way to improve their record in winnable games and they've gone out and win it. So, I love it.
Yeah, and Bears are in a tough division, so the path to the playoffs will most likely be, let's say, as a wild card. And now you've beaten Commanders, you beat the Cowboys. Those are teams you might be duking it out with, and it's nice to have that tiebreaker. So, loved it.
Yeah, 100%. Now, when we go through the game a little bit, just kind of, see where we thought the game turned. I thought, right away, the defense comes up, and what we've talked about in previous episodes, defensive identity. They're giving up a lot of yards, but they're getting turnovers on the very first offensive possession for the Washington Commanders. Jaquan Brisker, big interception, pivotal play right away.
Absolutely. And we'll talk more about that in the Caleb versus Jayden conversation, I think. But you're right. Takeaways matter. We see that. I'm going to cheat here, Bob. I know it's pivotal players, but I thought the refs played a role in this game. And the first time I felt that way was when Loveland caught a ball and they said he pushed off. He probably did, but the guy was dropping back in coverage anyway. If he pushed him and he went that far, that dude needs to hit the weight room. But I'm still waiting for Loveland to take off, and to take a catch off the board just kind of hurt the momentum. 3 points instead of potential 7. So I thought that was a pivotal play.
Yeah, and that's not the only time the referees, pivotal players. There was other things later on in the game. Nashawn Wright, 2 very questionable calls on him. We'll get the illegal formation on Benedict. There was offsides on DJ Moore. Like, the referees just seem to really insert themselves into this game more than you like to make themselves a pivotal player.
Kind of like we say with offensive linemen, I think that's how we should think of refs. You had a good game if we're not even noticing you were there, but we noticed them a lot in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go back to a pivotal play. I believe the second offensive possession for Washington. Montez Sweat makes an impact, kind of coming down the line to attack the ball carrier, gets the ball out. Guy returning, Kyler Gordon, recovers the fumble, and there we go. Defensive identity again. Turnover. So big play on the second possession.
Yeah, Sweat showed up a few times. It's nice to see that. And unlike maybe with the Las Vegas game, Bears returning these turnovers into points. So that was good to see. Pivotal play, I thought at the time, Bears were driving up 13-7, if you can correct me if I'm wrong there.
No, that's right.
And on 3rd and 10, do a nice little pitch to DeAndre Swift. He gains 9 yards. And so kind of, if you were willing to run on 3rd and 10, maybe it was already in Ben Johnson's mind that they were going for it on 4th. You're in 4th and 1. You've been running the ball well. And they ran what I thought was a poorly conceived play and even worse execution. And unfortunately, it was a turnover on downs where you either want 3 or 7 on that drive. You come up with 0. It was a bit of a downer.
Yeah, and then the Bears once again found themselves in a position where they were basically dominating the game on the, between the lines, but then not on the scoreboard. And that was a problem. But a big kind of play at the end of the half, the Bears did get the ball back with a chance to maybe score. They were hoping they'd be able to get a 16-7 by halftime, but they were stopped kind of 3 and out. But then Torrey Taylor, just a monster line drive punt, pins them back to the 8-yard line with still, I think, 20 seconds left, 19 seconds left. Ended up being end of half. Like, it could have been a situation where Washington gets the ball, the 30-35. They had 2 timeouts left, I think. Like, they still had a chance, but at that point, Torrey Taylor said, nope, we're going to end the half.
That's what a 4th-round punter needs to do, right?
That's right.
All right, so now we're in the second half, and you already kind of mentioned it with the refs, but it was a huge play. Caleb threw a beautiful kind of like fade to Odunze, who overall didn't have a great game, although I want to kind of zoom in on that a little later. Great catch, nullified by a penalty where even the broadcast was like, why? No, like, it wasn't an issue. And it takes 7 points off the board. Bears only end up with 3. So you could have been up 20-10. That's 2 possessions.
No, 2 scores, yeah.
Yeah, and you're only up 16-10, and we saw what happened.
Right. I mean, the next possession, Nashawn Wright, not his finest game. I mean, maybe that's just who he is. That looks appeared he was the one who blew the coverage. And McCaffrey just wide open. Jayden Daniels hitting, and all of a sudden, Bears are losing.
Well, later I want to bring up the fact that some people in the national media said that Jayden Daniels looked off the defense. I'm like, no, that's blown coverage. No, I could have thrown that touchdown.
That was brutal.
But Bears fall down 17-16. They actually then give up more points and are down 8 points. So that's still technically 1 possession. And at the most timely time, DeAndre Swift with a 55-yard touchdown catch down the sideline. Unfortunately, they didn't convert the 2-point conversion, but it trimmed the game at a time they really needed it. Offense had come up empty a few times, as we've highlighted. Big play.
Yeah, huge play. And now pivotal player for the game, I would say as well, right? Went over 100 yards for the first time, I think, since they were in Washington last season, so more than a season or about a season. And just, ran tough. He read the blocks well, got through the line. So pivotal player, DeAndre Swift.
So his 7.7 yards per carry. Let's remember that big play, the 55-yarder, was a catch. So it wasn't like it was swayed by like one big play and then he had a bunch of 2-yard gains. He was cracking off 7, 8, 12 kind of yard runs, and that was really nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, could possibly be the player of the game, but then late in that 4th quarter, Jayden Daniels unable to handle the snap cleanly, fumble, trying to hand it off to JCM, and there's our guy Nashawn Wright, Johnny on the spot, recovered that fumble. So pivotal play.
I'm glad you brought that up because it was 3rd and 1, and had he handled it cleanly, I mean, it's tough because it's going to be a read option kind of situation. But the Bears had stood up at the line there. I'm hoping they would have stopped them.
Yeah, it looked
But
like they were.
now you're talking punt, and maybe they pin you, and you got to go the whole length of the field. So clearly, we would have preferred it as it ended up happening. And then, so that final drive, I feel like there were a couple of pivotal plays. And first of all, just a pivotal mindset of we are going to be the last ones to have the ball, and we're going to win it on a field goal. It was clear that's what they were going for. I think they only threw the ball once, so it was a bunch more of DeAndre Swift and really good blocking, and he was decisive, hitting the holes. He had a 10-yard run, 15-yard run, pivotal plays, pivotal player, as you pointed out, which brings us to the very final pivotal play and pivotal player. Why don't you do the honors, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, when that drive started, we knew that either the goal was to score with exactly 0-0 on the clock. That's what they wanted to do. Running in, got a shout out to, a little pivotal player, Darnell Wright as well, got everything done. But, we're talking, you got to get this to be a 30-yard field goal. I mean, anything under 40 for sure, but you got to get this as nicely as Moody made some of those kicks. They weren't like exactly pinpoint accuracy dead center. There was some wobble on all of them and the low ones. So, but, Jake Moody, good on you. You came in, you executed when you need to. So pivotal player for sure, coming in and getting that job done.
Even though some of them didn't know who he was, they carried him off the field. I'm like, is he Moody or Rudy?
I don't know the dynamics of NFL locker room that much, but I mean, DeAndre Swift literally said the first time he met Jake Moody was today. It's like, I mean, he's been in the practice facility for
3 weeks, right?
Now. I mean, at some point, at least Caleb said, like, because the reporters joked with Caleb, he said, if you met him, like, yeah, first day I went up and shook his hand. Like, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what's going on with some of these other players. But.
And he probably said, you're not going to kick much around here.
Yeah, right. We don't kick around.
So. Little did he know, game winner and 4 big field goals.
Right. So, that's kind of the game flow. But, I mean, at the front and center of kind of everything that went on is, once again, Ben Johnson just keeps proving to be the guy I hoped he would be, and the guy a lot of people thought he already was. So, I mean, what did you see Ben Johnson's fingerprints all over this one?
So, one of the storylines that was probably not hyped as much as others was that this is the first time we got to see Ben Johnson coming off the bye. And with a guy that has such strong intellect of how offenses work and of how defenses work, you were hoping to see a good, strong performance. Now, was it that? I don't know, because the stats don't necessarily say that, and you were playing in messy weather. But like we opened the show, to get the running game clicking the way it was, when on paper you were one of the worst, I think the worst rushing team in the league, that shows that the bye week was about self-scouting, figuring out what we were doing wrong, figuring out what we're doing right, and then coming out and executing. And so you see that effect. And then many times in this game, there were opportunities to not pack it in because you weren't getting blown out, but just have doubt creep in and, shoot yourself in the foot. And I don't think he stands for that. I mean, it's not to say it's never going to happen, but now we're seeing it's consistently not happening. So now it's going to be odd if it does happen, as opposed to the reverse, which is like odd if they do pull out a win, odd if they do execute down the stretch. And that's the effect that we were hoping for and that we're already seeing just 5 weeks into this season.
Yeah, I mean, getting the running game going is something that you just kind of love to see, because the last press conference, I think at some point last week, he said that he is taking it personally. He's personally embarrassed for how bad the run game was. So it's to take that time for the bye week and get that run game straightened out. How much of it had to do with, getting the offensive line straightened out with Bennett at left tackle, a little bit more faith that all 5 guys are doing the right things. Probably it's got something to do with it. But it's just to see a coach say something like that and back it up is huge. And it kind of gives you hope and faith that he keeps talking a big game about these penalties and procedural penalties, but they still keep happening. So, maybe, the run game gets straightened out is probably, I would say, more important than these penalties right now, because he gets to run more of the offense he wants. But maybe when you can say, all right, now I'm personally embarrassed that it's week 9 and these penalties are still happening, that he can get those straightened out. But that's just kind of huge to see. And then the other thing we mentioned a little bit of pivotal plays, pivotal players, but I think we got to get used to just how Ben Johnson does the clock management a little bit. At when they got that ball with 3-something minutes left, I mean, they called 2 runs and had 3rd and 5 or something like that with the clock running down. And, the messaging is he's trying to score with exactly 0 left. He's not just trying to score a touchdown and see what happens. He's saying, no, we have the ball in our hands and we are going to play this. We're going to execute cleanly and we are going to win the game with no time left on the clock. And just to see the team execute that way, I thought was just, it clearly they're stressing it and maybe in training camp or practice, but everyone seemed to be on the same page exactly how they manage that clock and get it done. And I think one play in particular that stands out, and Ben Johnson mentioned it today too. I was glad he did. I was hoping he would. They'd already had one of the big runs, I think, but then they kind of rolled Caleb out left. Ben Johnson today made it seem like it was an actual keeper, but I thought it was rolling out left and he's got an easy completion. Get it? If not, just keep it. But Caleb did the exact right thing. He just rolled out. He didn't put the ball at risk. He didn't go out of bounds. He just all right, the most important thing isn't 3 yards. The most important thing is making them waste a timeout.
Yep.
And just it's stuff like that you just see that how he's just understands how to win football games, right? And these are the things that, Matt Eberflus with 3 losses of a 95+% win percentage or whatever we broke down last year, right? I mean, Ben Johnson is just a different understanding of what it takes to win games in the NFL.
I'd rather you say Voldemort than say Matt Eberflus anymore. But now let me ask you, you kind of said, hey, right now I'm embarrassed about the run game. He focused on it, the team focused on it, and it looked a lot better. Not to say that there might not be a regression down the line. But now the next big blemish that's pretty obvious is those penalties. Bears had 9 penalties for 84 yards. But I mean, right off the bat, I can think of 3, maybe 4, where I more blame it being called than it being done, if that makes sense. So, like, how much of it is, like, we have to clean up versus you kind of caught the wrong end of the stick, maybe, in this game?
Yeah,
there weren't that many pre-snap penalties, which I think those are the mental
mistakes. Those are the mental mistakes, right? I mean, the 2 that stand out are the Benedict one and the DeAndre Swift lining up offsides ones, right? As you already said, you don't think DJ Moore even checked with the official, right? That's just something that you just do. And the Theo Benedict one of that, I mean, they said it on the broadcast and Ben Johnson repeated it again today. The officials will warn you about that before they make the call. So Theo Benedict had already been warned that he was cutting it a little too close. So it's just one of those things you just got to kind of have that awareness that, hey, you know what, I'm just going to make sure that there's no doubt here.
Well, and I know teams do deep scouting and analyzation. And this particular reffing crew apparently was known for throwing the flag. And a lot of these calls were that same line judge. So shame on them if they didn't know that about this guy, or like you said, check with him, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So maybe those are the kind of adjustments they can make.
Right. But I mean, we already kind of touched on it a few different places, but I just think it's worth going in depth again about just how huge it is to have the run game going. Right. We saw how Ben Johnson's offense ran in Detroit. Obviously, it's a bit of a different offensive line with different running backs. But I think everything that he does, everything he wants to do is predicated on having a functional run game that you can play off of. Right. If you just need to run the ball 15 times down the field, you're capable of it. If not, you got play action. Like if you got linebackers crashing because you're expecting to run, even if it's not necessarily play action, then you get these crossing routes. You get a lot more running to the catch opportunities because you have players out of sync. I think that's what happened on the Olamide drop at the end of the game, where they were more worried about a run deep in that end zone. They got Olamide basically one-on-one with Bobby Wagner, great player, not much lateral quickness anymore, and he just dropped it. But I just think everything he wants to do starts with an effective running game, and it's just huge to get it going.
Does Caleb end up with over 300 passing if Olamide catches that ball? Because
he might.
40 yards is the minimum I think he would have gotten there.
They made it seem like, but there was a safety who was just like, Olamide was on like the one side of the hash and safety was on the more of the middle field hash, and there was about 18 yards difference between them. So that's like a foot race to the corner. If Olamide beats into the corner, great, but if not, it's probably just a 30 or 40 yard gain instead of like taking it to the house.
I'll admit I did not watch it on an all 22, but I don't know that he had that angle. But we don't know because it was a woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Would have been a big play either way, much bigger than it ended up being.
I got nothing else to add. We've touched on it a bunch. Yeah. Oh, well, hold on. how much do you think you were the president of the Play Braxton Jones committee, and that we know it wasn't Johnson's guy from the get-go. He did ultimately decide on him to be the one to start, but I really thought Benedict, I mean, obviously he stood out with that penalty, but I rewatched the game. I thought he did a great job in pass block. I thought he did a good job in run block. Was that one of the reasons for the change, or
I think it was the only reason for the change, to be honest. I mean, when I went back, I watched that Dallas game. This is, back then, it's not like I watched them before we recorded today, but back when I was watching the Dallas game to get ready for that episode, and then rewatching the Raiders game, it was clear in the Dallas game that he seemed a little bit lost in the run game. He was out there basically just flailing at linebackers, literally throwing his own body at him. Yeah, Braxton Jones, and like falling on the ground. Like, offensive linemen aren't supposed to be on the ground, especially not at their own doing. So you already see that in the running game. He's just trying to throw himself at so. I don't know exactly what his blocking assignments were supposed to be, but I'm pretty sure that that's not what you want your offensive lineman to be doing. And then, the his last play in the Raiders game was it was like a third down play. It was supposed to 3rd and 2. It looked like it was just a simple handoff to DeAndre Swift off the left side. And Braxton Jones just goes and basically double teams the guy that Tooney is blocking, leaving that I think it was a nickel just right there to just tackle Swift for a 2-yard loss. And I just think that was the final straw. So, I know that he wasn't excellent in the passing game, but he's never been excellent in the passing game. I do believe what got him benched was the run game. And then you get somebody who's more physical and just obviously more assignment driven at Benedict. And yeah, I do think just that one change for Braxton to Benedict is, And I guess I never even really considered Braxton Jones run blocking prior, because it's always been about the bull rush. It's always been about everything else with Braxton Jones. And my stance was like, he's still fine, even with all that. But with the running game, what Ben Johnson wants to do, I do think it was a big adjustment going to Benedict.
Let's go to the other side of the ball. So the defensive identity, in some people's minds, they said, is this the first time we can even see Dennis Allen kind of execute the defense as he would like, because you get Kyler Gordon for the first time this season. You get TJ Edwards. He's played a few snaps, but really you get him back. And it was more of the same in terms of forcing turnovers or capitalizing on them, even if you're not forcing them. But I thought there was better pass rush, better rush defense overall. They held a good rushing attack to, I think, about 4 yards per carry. What do you think, Bob? Like, are we seeing their identity come to form?
Yeah, so, I mean, when I say consistent results on defense here and, like, the defensive identity, like, it just still seems like they're not a just shut you down type defense. They're not just going to, like, 3-and-out you to death, right? That's just not who the Bears are. They're like, they did play much better against the run today. The biggest matchup that I was concerned going into the game, and it's why I actually picked Washington and UFFL to win this week, because I was very worried about the run game with JCM, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt against, he was leading the NFL in yards per carry, and the Bears defense is last in the league in yards per carry. So I was very concerned about that, and they definitely cleaned that up today. That was definitely the way to go. But overall, yards were the yards. I still gave it 24 points, right? But the turnovers were huge. And again, they perform on 3rd down. Washington was 3 for 8 on 3rd down. So if you turn the ball over and then getting them down, getting them off the field on 3rd down, then that's the way to go. The problem sometimes with this Bears defense is that the offense, opposing offense doesn't always get to 3rd down, so you can't get them off the field on 3rd down. But
so on a prior episode, I exposed one of their Achilles heels. Apparently they got it in both heels, was giving up massive amounts of yards on 1st down. I admit I did not crunch the numbers this game around, but from the eye test, I thought they did a lot better there. There were a few where you were giving up 6-7 yards, but 6-7, sorry. But I thought there were also times where they, stuffed them and only gave up 2 yards, which puts you in much better position. Now you're going up against Jayden Daniels. He can make you look ugly. There were a few times I think the Bears thought they had him, and he's a slippery guy, and he gained some yards. But overall, they definitely played well enough to keep the team in the game. And that's why at the end of it, you come out victorious. And Ben Johnson's address to the team was, it took all 3 phases, guys. There were times where the offense looked good. There were times where the defense looked good. There were times when special teams looked good. So,
yeah. And to me, the biggest thing that I saw on the defense in this game was the defensive line. They looked more athletic and more active today. Like you could see that, I don't know if there was just more effort. I know Ben Johnson talked today about better technique and getting off blocks, but whatever it is, even though they still they had the 2 sacks and didn't have, so much of an impact on the passing game too much. It's a big plays on the stretch. They just looked different. It looked more active and they looked like athletes. Montez Sweat, maybe he's not super productive player, but he's an athlete out there and he looked like an athlete. Same thing with the Danebo, right? He looked like an athlete out there. Yeah. That's what you need.
And I thought the only thing that was going to bring that kind of rejuvenation was maybe the return of Austin Booker. I was really hoping that was going to be this week. Maybe that's the next layer to this. But one guy, Dominique Robinson, I thought looked good until he was in coverage one-on-one with a running back.
Yeah, that was
critical fourth down.
You tip the hat to Kingsbury and be like, all right, man, good call. Good job. Good on you. And just move on,
All right. Caleb versus Jayden. I mean, I hesitate to want to say it's a quarterback versus a quarterback, but that's the NFL. And I got a real problem here. Let me kick this one off, Bob.
Yep, please.
Okay. I don't think every game of a season should be considered a referendum on who you are as an NFL player. I don't think every play within a game should be a referendum. But as we've said many times on this show, the narrative seems to already be written about a guy like Caleb Williams. And for me, I'm going to go out on the record and say Jayden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Drake May, hell, throw Michael Penix in there. That whole draft class right now looks like they could all be solid, average to above average, maybe some of them stars in this league. And it's still too early to determine that for any of them. But for some reason, because even in this game, when you hear the national media talk, they say, wow, Jayden Daniels looks off the defense and throws a ball for... No, a blown coverage where any player would have thrown a touchdown. That's what happened. And let me say very clearly, I believe that if Caleb Williams had thrown a pick in the red zone, if Caleb Williams had the fumble that led to the team losing, we'd be hearing all about him, back to this bus talk, back to him not being able to manage his team or pull out victories. And I'm not saying that's what we should be saying about Jayden Daniels, but I just think there seems to be hypocrisy, or I don't know if that's the right word, for how these two players are being evaluated.
I could not possibly agree with you more, especially when it came to this Monday Night Football broadcast. I think Troy Aikman wasn't even hiding it. He, when they're kind of breaking down, introducing, he basically said Caleb Williams has kind of improved this year. He's still working on it. He's still got accuracy issues, and that Jayden Daniels is already a superstar. And the whole game was announced through that lens, right? Like everything that Jayden Daniels did, look, spectacular. Like like they didn't even criticize that ridiculous intentional grounding that they had. Like it was just like, oh, whatever, he's getting rid of the ball. The interception wasn't like, wow, what a terrible read, what a terrible play. It's like, oh, well, that was a mistake. And then like they show Jayden Daniels a little bit on the sideline right after that, just like laughing and smiling. If that was Caleb Williams laughing and smiling after throwing an interception, it would have been outrage, right? And then, again, and then the flip is, Caleb Williams did have some accuracy issues early on. One particularly bad one to Zacchaeus, where definitely, he could have run after the catch, but he missed him. And then Troy Aikman's comment is, oh, Caleb just doesn't have it today. It's just like it was his third pass attempt of the day. What are you talking about? So is it like this narrative that already Caleb Williams is a disappointment and Jayden Daniels is a superstar? It's just something that's going to take a lot of work to overcome.
So at one point, Jayden Daniels was 9 for 10, and I'll be the first one to admit, one of the things I think he does have a leg up on Caleb is his accuracy, but he was 9 for 10 with an interception, and Joe Buck goes, oh, not a single ball he's thrown has hit the ground. And I'm like, he threw a pick when they should have had points. And there were 2 plays where he grounded the ball. I'm not saying intentional grounding, but threw miserable passes and was bailed out by, one was the roughing that Sweat hit him in the head. I do think that should get called, whatever you want to say, but it was a bad throw. I don't think that made it a bad throw. It was a bad throw. The other one he threw deep into double coverage, which they criticized later in the game when Caleb did. Yeah. And it was, I forget which penalty that was, but it was nullified by a penalty. So it's like, wasn't like he was simply throwing dots all over the field, which he's known to do. But again, this is not me trying to bash Daniels. It's just trying to see, like, why is one seen through one lens and the other a totally different lens?
And like, even going into this game, Daniels is a superstar. Caleb is, a disappointment, right? Daniels did not play like a superstar. And if you think Caleb's disappointment, then Caleb played better than a disappointment. Like, I still think, fine, you want to argue that just this game alone, Jayden Daniels played better than Caleb Williams, fine. We can have a discussion, that argument, I don't care. But like, it was so close, and they should have been knocking Jayden Daniels for playing less than expectations and help like hyping Caleb up for playing a little bit better than expectations. But it still wasn't the narrative at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of ifs and buts. If ifs and nuts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas, I believe. If it's and well, anyway, sorry. There are a couple plays. There was one. It was a designed run for Caleb on a 3rd down and 3, I want to say, where he runs out to the right, and Odunze was in motion and then just takes off down the field and throws up his hand. And I'm like, dude, throw that ball.
Yeah,
That's
that was a tough one, because I think as soon as Caleb turned the corner, his eyes lit up because he knew he was going to get the first down, or if he knew that if he just booked it, he was going to get the first down. And I think that's all that he was actually worried about. But yeah, I mean, that's a touchdown play, so maybe that's something you learn and grow from. But yeah,
I a mail post when you just throw up your hand, and I'd say we know of 3 of those this season that have happened. One was a dot to Odunze for a touchdown. The other was that bad throw to DJ Moore. And then there was this one. So, hey, something to look for.
Right.
Your stats look a lot better with a 50-yard.
I'm just going to mention it because I was listening to CSGO yesterday. They did the same comparison you did about the 2024 quarterback class, and they forgot to mention Bo Nix. So I just think Bo Nix also needs to make sure he gets thrown into that group, just because, I know Rob liked him a lot. And, of course, when you make the playoffs rookie year and then you continue to, lead a winning team, you should be thrown into that discussion of making it a great class. And then the other thing is, what another take, Caleb and Jayden is obviously a main storyline of this Bears-Commanders rivalry, but here at the House Huddle, we continue to tout Bears-Commanders as the future, main rivalry of the NFL. And here we have another excellent game, an excellent chapter. The rain adds to it. You got, Jake Moody. It's all just, you got Ben Johnson eliminating the team that eliminated him, or beating the team that eliminated for the playoffs. Like, there's so many elements going on here that it's just another feather in our cap about this being future of the NFL, these two teams. Absolutely.
And the stats going into this game just for the 2025 season, which I know Jayden has missed a couple games, the edge actually was Williams for just this season. So again, I'm not time will tell, and winning will help
too. You don't just get respect, you got to earn it. So just keep going out and proving it. The Bears keep doing things like this, and they will become known as a winning team. So
there you go. They're starting to form a blueprint.
That's right. So what do they have to do to keep this going against the Saints?
Well, let me just say, as prognosticators, we sometimes look at the schedule a certain way. The Saints are 1-5, I believe, but they've played people tough. So don't just go ahead and think you have this one. You're coming home against a team that you should be able to beat, but you got to play the right way. And I want to believe, from everything we've been saying about the Ben Johnson effect, that he's not going into this like, okay, guys, we got an easy one this week. And no. Fundamentals. What do we need to do to be winners? So play a clean game. Keep on with the run, I would say. You had success with it. Don't go away from it. Lean into that and see if you can, again, establish that as something we do. Because to your point, it opens up so many other things that you can do off of that. So I want to see more of that. And then, just win a game you're supposed to win. Because to me, it was a big deal to go 3-2 rather than 2-3. But if you were to come home and, pee down your leg and lose to what we think is an inferior team, and now you're 3-3, that's very different than 4-2. So just take care of business at home against a team you should beat. Don't look past them. I think that's what they got to do.
Yeah, I don't know that the Saints are the worst team in the NFL, but they're certainly in contention for it. But it's very rare that teams go 0-17 or even 1-16, 2-15, right? The worst teams in the NFL are still going 3-14, 4-13, whatever it is. Don't be one of those 3 or 4. right? You can't do that. You have to show up. You have to execute. You can't come in thinking, oh, we're the better team, so we're going to win. No, you have to go out and beat the team. You have to make it happen. So just go with that. Plan on executing better than you have before. Keep that running game going. Caleb just got to stay within himself and take the plays that are there and let the natural athleticism take over when it's time. And just, go out and win a game 31-13.
I mean, we just said at the beginning of the show, we're not used to the Bears being the type of team to do the winning things. We're also not sure how they play as the favorite. They haven't been the favorite too often. And here's a game where it's like, you're a heavy favorite. Prove it.
I don't know what the line is, but it wouldn't surprise me if they're more than a touchdown, right?
Yeah, I'll take a quick look now. I know you got something coming up here, so
I got here. It's only 5.5. Only
Oh,
5.5. So there you go. So
I might take some action on that then.
Yeah, right. But it's interesting. The Bears have scored more than 20 points in every game so far, and just even scoring 20 points once had been a challenge for this team before. But they scored more than 20 points every game, and I feel like they've yet to play a complete game on offense. Even the game against Dallas, that fourth quarter, they left points on the board every possession. They could have put that game a laugher, even with some of those turnovers they got in the fourth quarter. So just if they can put a complete game together, they're capable of making it.
So since 2021, I said this is the first time they've won 3 games in a row since 2021. It's also they've only won 3 times since 2021 when giving up 24 or more points, which obviously giving up lots of points, you're going to lose more than you win. But they won 25-24 against Washington yesterday. They won 25-24 before the bye against Vegas. And back in December, the day after Christmas, that's my anniversary, of 2021, they beat Seattle. Guess what? 25-24. Very odd.
It's very odd, that 25-24 score.
So I'm not going to make that my point prediction in the Saints game. I hope you beat them by more than 1, but maybe they'll pull off one against the Ravens, 25-24.
Yeah, maybe.
Don't look ahead, Bears. I can, but you
exactly. Don't look ahead. That's another part of this. You're not looking to see if Lamar Jackson's going to be healthy or not. We're just worried about Spencer Rattler and the rest of whatever the Saints are going to bring into town this week.
Another quarterback that's better than Caleb, right?
Well, prove it on the field, Caleb. Prove it on the field.
Oh, I teased as if you were giving us your NFC North power rankings, but that'll be midweek.
Yeah, that'll be midweek. We'll get that done midweek. Yeah, we might shift that to early week. I don't know, depending on whatever. It might be better just for views wise to do it early week, but it's still I got there's only so many hours in the day, so
that's true.
And it's like this crazy. The actual standings, there's a half game difference between first and fourth place.
Yeah.
So it's like you're really splitting hairs about who's going to be where in these rankings.
So I was going to bring that up. Last year when the Bears lost to Washington, they were 4-2 and in last place in their division. Right. And the rest of the division finished out the season showing that, yes, this is the best division in football. And the Bears did not. They lost 10 in a row. We all know that story. But again, now they're 3-2 in last place. I think they're the only division in the league where every team has a winning record. So maybe this year, the Bears actually show that they're legit. I don't know if the other 3 will, but I think this is going to be a tough division the whole year long. So you got a tough task, my man, in these power rankings.
That was the whole point of starting these power rankings this year, because we all thought it was going to be a close division. We all thought that last place was still going to win 7-8 games, and first place maybe they'd win 10-11. So that's why we do it, because it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, I had fun on this episode, Bobo, as always. Please comment, like, subscribe, hype it up, hype, hooray.
Do something with the hype points. We don't know what they do, but just play around. See what happens.
So, all right.
All right, we good?
Yeah, we're good, man.
All right, we'll bear down. Claws up.
Ready, break.